So this is Glick, which is a platform that provides personalized suggestions on your spending habits, and it will learn on you. It will keep learning to provide contextual suggestions. So we know that 35% of millennials use a digital budgeting system, but that means more than 50 million people. And that's not even the start, because we know that over 50% of people put off budgeting. But we've set out to find the reasons. Why do people put off budgeting? If budgeting is so important, why is it not being used so much? We understood that most people find it boring, or lack of time, or lack of confidence into getting the decisions. So we seek out to get the competitors. So what is happening? Most people are trying to automate the entire process. So people don't get the decision. Things just happen. So they start saving, or they start investing. But that doesn't mean much when they don't have a lot of income. But there's another side, which keeps track of spendings. So it tries to control spendings. It tracks them and presents them into a different information, like pie charts. But then the person has to be the one deciding what's happening, what can I do? And just as I said, one of the reasons is people lack of confidence into deciding, or they find it boring into tracking information. So Glick positions itself into providing personalized feedback that means something to you, based on your context, so location or time. So for example, Emily, last week, she spent too much on Starbucks, a lot to her income. On a traditional app, what would happen was she would have a pie chart, and it would say a lot of money was spent on food. What could she do? She wouldn't understand what's happening. But with Glick, what we can do is provide a card right when she's coming near Starbucks and say, okay, this is the possibilities. And all she needs to do is swipe it to the left or to the right, depending whether she likes that suggestion. If she doesn't like it, another card will pop up. If she likes it, one will show that now she's tracking a goal, motivating her to go on. There's all kinds of cards. Cards that motivate her, cards that ask questions to get more information. So Glick is an intuitive and contextual suggestions platform that improves with your answers in order to provide feedback when you need it. So to start, when it comes to revenue models, we believe a premium features on a freemium model, for example, only tracking 50% of the spendings could work, but that's not enough. So as soon as we get a bigger user base, we want to get referrals. We want to provide suggestions that are sponsored. And we want to have the MVP completely ready by the end of this year. This MVP needs to have integration with banks. So we are thinking about a white label bank in order to grow along with them. And at the start of the next year, we'll apply gamification, because we need to reduce churn rate. One of the biggest concerns when it comes to personal finance managers is the churn rate. And right afterwards, we'll want to launch a freemium model, so you can get the metrics and start evolving based on it. But finally, and one of the main core for the next year, we need to get data processing. So we need to get into a point that the user never needs to input information, where things just happen compared to context, compared to what works the most. Because we have an end game. We believe that Glick does not require an interface. We see giants like Microsoft, Apple, and Google, which are building assistants that have information about transportations or health, but they still do not combine the information from finance. And we want to combine information from finance with routine. So at the end game, we want to be able to integrate with every single platform so that we can provide suggestions when you need it. Are you on the car? Are you using Messenger? Everything could work. So with this, we have a team that is dedicated and can get this to work. Diogo, which is a lead developer and has a data scientist background. We have Inês, which are focused on operations and business. And we have Joanna, which has been building the entire interface and intuitive. So with Glick, we want to redefine your spending habits. And we need your help in order to do it. Thank you.
Congratulations for the work. Last time we spoke about it, lots of differences. Congratulations for that. I would like to ask you, how do you solve like the classic problem of PFM, which is like the input? Where do you find the input? I'm paying with cash. Do I have to insert that?
Yeah.
Because I'm buying Oreos with cash.
Yeah, what we're noticing is that more and more transfers are more focused on the bank side, we are obviously concerned about when it comes to input information. So for example, what we can do is when someone is spending a lot of time in a restaurant and there's no expense made on when it comes to bank transfers at that time, we can send a notification, a card, which says, have you spent anything here? So the person doesn't need to, one of the main concerns that we found was when we're spending information on a normal PFM, we have to remember to put the information to the platform. So because we understand how long the person has been there and where he is, we can give cards. But we also have a menu, the menu which we saw at the GIF, which had the normal expense tracking. The person usually will be able to input information. On the MVP, we're not focused on that. We're more focused on providing just the cards and getting the integration with the banks.
Just the cards. Explain the cards a little bit more then, because you talked about if you're at Starbucks, you can swipe left, right. Tell me more about the cards itself.
Okay, so the cards, we thought about the concept of Google Now. So in order to provide cards which are adjusted to the context. So the different colors mean different categories. And we are the main goal that we found was that when it comes to PFMs, there's usually some views. One of them is about providing information on charts. And it requires the person to understand what's happening. So with cards, we can give information as much as is needed when it's needed. And all it has to do is say yes or no or swipe left or to the right. I don't know if if you want to explain something.
And it's supposed to work as an alert sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you approach a Starbucks, in this example, I actually get a notification saying, look,
Don't
you've
go
been
in.
spending a lot
Yeah.
on in coffee shops and restaurants and so on. Maybe Starbucks is not the best choice.
Yeah.
Are there other PFMs that use these challenges? It's kind of like challenging you to not spend this week on Starbucks, or did you come up with this?
We saw, for example, Mint, which is one of the big giants. Their platform right now, their app, is trying to provide suggestions based on just how much you has been spending. For example, they notice that you spend too much on a place, and they'll give a suggestion whenever they find that out. So they won't give the suggestion when it's needed. So for example, if I'm here right now and I just input the information of my spendings, it would say now that I spent too much there. But the next time I was in that place, I wouldn't be reminded of that. So because one of the main concerns, one of the main reasons that we found was lack of time of people and the part of making decisions. So we found that we needed to provide information at the time that it was required.
And in that way, you're not actually being a source of guilt for the user. You're actually helpful in budget management, right?
So
What?
Saturday night you could tell people you spent too much on going out, you should go home now.
Yeah, for example, exactly. Yeah, but if, for instance, someone wouldn't want to cut on that part and it would just keep swapping no, then we'd start not sending cards about going out. So if, for example, we'd say, no, you just don't eat.
Save somewhere else, basically.
Yeah, or just don't eat, or drink, but don't eat. It depends on the person. So, because the main goal is focusing on personalization, and then we have the other part, which is the general, improving the accuracy of the questions.
Just one question for you to think about it. How do you mix between like being too detailed, you know, like when I go to the supermarket I get 100 products there, but if it's just bulk, supermarket doesn't tell me anything, so it doesn't solve the problem you were trying to solve. What's the mix? Where the balance? What have your interviews and
Yeah, so that was one of our main concerns because our categorization is a bit narrower. So we have, like, for example, a general category where it's really hard for us. For example, if you are at Continente or Jerónimo Martins, you can buy things that should be making you guilty, or you could be just buying groceries. So that's where cards come in. When we have a doubt, for example, when the place is not clear, when the location is not working really well, or when the value is not understandable, we will ask you. That's the meaning of the cards. Martin didn't quite explain something that was like, for example, the cards. You have the objectives cards, but you also have blue cards that will make you questions, just questions for the program to learn, that don't give advice, that don't tell you something. They just want to know if you pay rent, if you go grocery shopping at Sonai or at Jerónimo Martins or whatever. So it will learn with you, and once you have made spendings there, it will start learning, and maybe it will start asking you more questions like, for example, you spend too much here, but we can't really know or in detail what is this. Did you spend, for example, in something that's not groceries? Yes, no. So it will learn continuously, but that's one of our main problems when the expense is not as detailed as you would expect. So it's harder for you to give advice when you can be buying guilty-free or guilty products.
No, since this is like lots of sources of
Yeah,
behavior.
yeah, yeah.
So you can go out of the fintech, like imagine health, for example,
Yeah,
you're
sure.
spending too much in sweets
Yeah.
or something like that, and then you can come back for the insurer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For example, this person is having an unhealthy life or something like that.
Yeah, for example, we have for the future, like as a source of income and as a revenue stream also is like we can use this for big data purposes. So we can use this for to give information to back-end credit providers. And for example, credit providers usually need health information and healthy habits and lifestyle. So we can also use that because this is a really big source of data, and it's an honest one. At least you expect it so. So maybe it's not right away, but like that was
How would
one
you
of
control
our
that?
ideas. Yeah, it's not controllable, but like you expect it. So that's a thing we talked about. It's not our main source, but it was like just to give you an insight that it could be a way. We still don't know how because of course you want the people to be as honest as it can be, but of course because it's in its interest, but at the same time you can't prove it. So
It will be perfect when you get like
confirmation.
NIF integrated, cashless. It will be perfect
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like that. Definitely, it will be fantastic. But I would just like to ask you: did you saw two examples that I gave you, like Simple and Atom Bank? You spoke about white label banks. It's for sure a very good option to integrate with them because the white label banks that are not having this, they are completely out because you get so many examples using these kind of tools. Have you checked the features and what's the major differentiation from because if you look at Simple, we get very similar suggestions.
We didn't, I'm going to be honest, we didn't check it out, but I think the main thing here is like, even though we may have like a similar business model to other, we have a big difference, which is when you want it. So like, of course, many other platforms give you suggestions and try to fit your expenses to how we can help you improve, but most of times are not curated to you, are just curated to your mistakes. So like, you do mistakes, you spend the money, and then he says, oh, maybe you shouldn't, or maybe you should look into this. Here, the person does not have to be like warned after he's done it. It's like it will learn to tell you. Of course, you will make some mistakes, and of course, you will tell you, I have this budget, and maybe this month I spend too much. But then it will learn to warn you when it's needed. So I think that's the biggest upgrade we have comparing to other types of platforms.
Very well. Congratulations.
Thank you.